Welcome to Paint Radio with your hosts, Andrew Dwyer and Kevin Hoffman.
Heck yeah, let's do a podcast, Paint Radio, the APC podcast. I'm Andrew Dwyer. Kevin Hoffman is here. Kevin, how are you?
I'm good, but it's hot.
Woo-wee. It is hot and humid. What I want to know from you this morning, Kevin, is what was your first full-time job? Not a summer job. First full-time job.
My first job was working as a reporter at the Associated Press in Philadelphia, and I can tell you that I was not qualified for it.
Dude, you so much for you just started off in the pro ranks right off the bat. That's impressive.
Yeah, they threw me in the deep end of the pool, and I had to learn to swim.
You're being awfully humble. That's you must have been stoked to get a job with the AP. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, it was super exciting. So really kicked off my career.
That is fabulous. Mine is not nearly as impressive. I was a copywriter at the American Geophysical Union in Washington, D.C., and I was a copywriter on a scientific journal called Global Geochemical Cycles. We called it GBC for short. And so you can imagine when I moved on from that and got into painting, I was pretty excited because it was much more real world and practical as opposed to the global geochemical cycles.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't understand a single thing you just said.
Oh, man. So what we're talking about today on the podcast, cool topic. We're going to chat with two young people in the painting industry, two employees, two painters, two professionals at Granite State Painters in New Hampshire. And those two wonderful young people, we've got Cole Martin, who is field manager at Granite State. Cole, thanks for being on the podcast.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us.
And we have Maddie Clark, who is a cabinet manager. Can't wait to dig in to learn more about what that role entails. Maddie, thanks for being here.
Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for having us on.
Cole, let's start with you. Just talk a bit about what your role entails as field manager at Granite State.
So day to day, it's a lot of scheduling. It's communicating with all our teams in the field to figure out where they're at on jobs, production wise and schedule wise, making sure the next clients, the next job's up, the client is aware of when we're going to show up. And then on top of that, it's a lot of training, mainly like managerial level training. Like not necessarily teaching someone how to paint, but teaching someone how to deal with people and train people and read personalities and so on and so forth. And then on top of that, it's I have a special connection to the cabinet team and just like the world of kind of like novelty and specialty coatings as well.
Well, I want to know how to deal with people. That's always been a complex challenge. So teach me.
The hardest part.
That's right.
You teach anyone how to paint, but to get that passion out of them and the work ethic and all that, that's hard to get out of some people, but not impossible.
So you included a lot of stuff. It sounds like a pretty broad role. How long have you been at Granite State? And then also, I talked about how we're talking with the young people. How old are you? And, turnabout, I'll be fair. I'm 55. How old are you, Cole?
I'm 35, and this will be as of May, that was my 10th year. So I'm 10 years and a couple months right now at Granite State Painters.
That's awesome. Very cool. Okay, Maddie, how about you? What is your role? You said you're cabinet manager. What do you do at Granite State?
So my role includes a little bit less of all that overhead stuff, but I am a little bit more hands-on. I deal with kind of like the day-to-day operations on the level of like the actual painting, the spraying, and the prep of cabinet doors and cabinet boxes on site. but I still handle, client communication, and I do a lot of training of employees at the apprentice level.
So, and how old are you?
I'm 23.
Dang. Okay. 20. How long have you been at the company?
So I've been with GSP for 3 years this summer. And I've been in this leadership role for about a year now.
Wow. So that's you've already moved on to cabinet painting, which is not easy. That's certainly not where you start. So you've progressed quite a bit. Is that fair to say in the 3 years?
Definitely.
100%.
One thing about GSP is they love hiring people who have little to no experience and doing like a really, really nice job training them up really quickly to pretty much like intermediate to like expert level.
Today's podcast is brought to you by IUPAT, the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. Need reliable, job-ready workers? The IUPAT helps you grow your crew with skilled, safety-certified professionals in commercial painting, drywall finishing, and more. Apprentices earn while they learn, so you get motivated workers trained to industry-leading standards from day one. Build your workforce without guesswork. Visit IUPAT.org to contact your local district council and get started.
Cole, you touched on that hiring. Obviously, that's a big issue right now in our industry. It's a chronic issue, trying to find young people, get them interested in the trades, and then have them reliably come back to work for week after week after week. It seems like you guys have it figured out. Cole, what are you doing to find the candidates and to select the right ones?
So we use Indeed. That's where we source most of our candidates from. And then, once we get them scheduled for an interview, during the interview, it's more of I'm trying to get that potential candidate, to talk as much as possible. I'm not trying to screen them for any type of special skills. I'm trying to get a read on what type of person and personality they have and whether or not they would fit within our culture. If you can get someone that's going to fit within the culture and mesh with the team, they become much easier to train and bring up to the level we want them to.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Behr Paint and Kills Primer, now available exclusively at the Home Depot. That means you can get top quality Behr Paint and Kills Primer at an everyday low price from one trusted partner. This partnership is designed to give pro painters more value, better service, and quality products with the durability you deserve from start to finish. And yes, that means you can get both Behr and Kills Primer products delivered same day, next day, whatever day you need, straight to your job site, free of charge. Some limitations apply. Go to behr.com/pro to connect with a dedicated rep who will help take care of your needs and save time on your next job. You're getting the inside scoop here at APC. If you're a pro, you know.
And what is that training process like when they come in day one? Like, how do they get up to speed so quick?
So day one, we use this thing called like learning pathways, and it's pretty much a list of things, skills in a chronological order, and there's timelines you should be able to achieve these skills in, and they get checked off by a manager. And so, they're given kind of like a big list, like a 90-day list of stuff. You should be able to get this, and this done within 90 days. And your manager, someone like Maddie, would check off that new apprentice is competent within that skill in a certain time period.
Okay.
So, Cole, you've been there 10 years. Maddie's been there 3. That means Maddie started when she was 20. I can do the math. And that's, I don't know, 20 strikes me as very young. So Cole, using Maddie as an example, since she's right here and we can talk about her to her, what did you see in Maddie? What skills, what about her was allowed her to climb through the ranks so quickly, let alone not be let go?
Well, Maddie's particularly, she's like one in a million, made things very easy on me. I could tell the passion and the drive and the work ethic were just there. So, and the general, like, just the passion for, um, to, to do the work was there. So, and then, I kind of like with Maddie, I like to show someone, like, use like social media stuff in other cabinet painters or specialty coating people on social media, like Slater Painting or ZK. I would like show Maddie the stuff and be like, this stuff's like really cool. We paint cabinets, but like this is bigger than just painting cabinets. We're like, I would put our cabinet team against anyone in the country for as far as quality goes, and how quick we can get a kitchen done start to finish. And so, I just showed Maddie that stuff, and she got, really stoked on that, and made my job easy.
So, Maddie, what was it like from your perspective of training? How, you come in, you get this learning pathway. How quickly are you able to learn the skills? And I mean, was there any intimidation at first? What was it like coming in?
It was definitely a little bit intimidating at first, like I was definitely one of those people who came in with little to no experience, kind of closer to no experience at all. I didn't even really know how to use a lot of the tools that we were using. Um, but I spent a lot of time shadowing the people who were training me in the beginning. And I feel like I'm definitely more of a visual learner. So that helped me kind of understand the bigger picture of the whole process a lot better. And it was only like a few months before I was actually put behind the sprayer and got to do a little bit of priming in the shop. Um, it's like a little bit of learning by watching, and then obviously learning by doing things yourself comes in at some point too.
And then when did you feel kind of competent enough to be a trainer? And now that the shoe's on the other foot, what's it like training other people?
You know, I think it was, I think 2 years in, I kind of felt like I was at that point where I knew enough to start training other people. It's a little bit tricky because there are some skills that are really important to know, but you don't really need to know them like you don't need to do it very often. Um, so something that we do called jigging, it's where you fill the old hardware holes for like the knobs or the handles or whatever on the cabinet doors, and then drill them out in a new size and a new pattern. And that's not something we have to do very often, but it is really important to know how to do yourself, especially before you get into that leadership and like teaching role.
Cole,
And
let
I-
me
Yeah, sorry.
go ahead. Go
And
ahead.
I think a big thing Maddie and I both get out of like the training is like the gratification of putting time into someone and seeing them succeed. Like nothing beats that than going home knowing that person you helped that day is going home themselves just like so happy and proud, and then that rubs off onto myself and Maddie, and it's that's where I get most of my gratification from a day's work is making someone else happy and learning the skills they need to learn.
Let me throw out a theory. There's a long tradition on this podcast about me throwing out theories and then guests deciding that no, that's total horseshit. So here we go. I think when it comes to training, it's very easy to get caught up in the mind of the person training, the person who knows how to do it, and they already know how to do it, and so they just sort of discuss what they know, when really effective training needs to focus sort of on the absence of knowledge, because you're talking to someone who doesn't know, and you really need to put yourself in the shoes of the person who has no knowledge and cover every little detail. And granted, this is a generalization, and generalizations may be generally true, that I think the longer you do something and the more experienced you are and the farther away you get from being new, from not knowing how to do it, it can become harder to effectively teach something because you've been doing it just by memory and rote for so long. Cole, your turn to say, yeah, that's cute, but no, that's not true at all.
No, I would agree with you on that. And yeah, that's kind of when it comes to myself, it's like I've kind of evolved into more like a lot of like leadership style training and training the managers to manage people. And I take a lot out of, if anyone's ever read the book like 1 Minute Manager, I believe it's called. It's a great book. A lot of good information in there. I use a lot of tactics from there. And no, you're definitely right. The further you get away from the exact process, the more you can kind of forget what it's like to be in that new person's shoes. Um, but all in all, like I run a lot of ideas by Maddie about training, and I'm always asking for Maddie's input on how am I doing a good job training this person? Am I doing a good job training yourself, Maddie? Where am I lacking anything? What would you like to see? So I try to be self-reflective and use Maddie and other managers to kind of help me stay on track there.
Humility goes a long way in everything we do. Maddie, you talk a bit about training. How do you train the trainer? What should trainers know out there? What's a good way? What's a good mental approach to help somebody learn something without them getting defensive?
If I had any advice or advice to give to somebody who was going to be a trainer, going to be in that role, it would just be that being personable is one of the most important traits that you can have. Getting to know the actual person that you're training is really important, especially because there's so many different ways that we learn, and everybody has, a different way that they learn. And if you're trying to use this like very narrow, like standardized approach to training, a lot of the time it might not work just because what works for you probably won't work for the next person. And you kind of have to have like a little bit of a dynamic approach to it. Um, but yeah, that and having patience for sure, especially
Yeah.
because what you said is true. The further you get away from being the new person, it's kind of hard to like keep in mind all the time that like you might tell somebody to do something and expect them to just get it right away. And, you know, you can't get frustrated with the fact that sometimes you're going to have to break it down a little bit further.
Well, Cole, I would imagine you guys have a even more difficult time with the training because you guys are using specialty products for the cabinets. I know you're a huge nerd for specialty products. Could you tell me a little bit about what products you're using, the complexities involved, and then how much more difficult it is to train people up on them?
Yeah, so our typical cabinet procedure, we're using mainly water-based two-component coatings. That's a two-component primer and a two-component top coat. Those are those are relatively easy to train. We shoot it out of an airless uh, paint spraying system. That's relatively easy. There's, when stuff goes wrong, it can go really wrong. It's when it's a lot of when it becomes really difficult, it's like when we get in the solvent 2Ks and the high gloss. That's like when we're trying to achieve like a 100 sheen, which is like the side of a car. You could see a reflection in it. And then now we're dealing with like catalyst reducers, extenders, retardants, all sorts of stuff, buffing, polishing. And that's really pretty difficult to train. So a lot on that is like I'll train someone how to read a TDS, which is a technical data sheet, which kind of is a more or less an SOP of how to use that coding system. So if you can kind of understand how to read a TDS, which is it's very bland and not that exciting to read, but if you can understand all the information they put on that, that puts you in a good spot to be successful with the coding. So anytime we introduce a new coding or a coding we don't use super often, Maddie and I will sit down beforehand and go over the TDS, which is pretty much a detailed directions of how to use the coding. We'll both look at it, talk about it, take into consideration the humidity levels, the ambient temperature, what spray system we're choosing to use for it, and both put our heads together and try to make the best decision possible. And then from there, we'll give that to whoever is going to be applying the coating. Give that information to them.
And Maddie, how do you go about kind of translating that to the field and the new people who are just learning it? I mean, is it like training wheels, or how are you able to keep them within the lines and not mess it up so bad, like Cole said?
Well, it's kind of like how it was for me. It's definitely a lot of shadowing in the beginning, even when we are just kind of working with the regular water-based stuff that we do work with, just because it's easy to remember how much of the catalyst, the hardeners, things like that to mix in the actual percentage. But if you accidentally put in too much, if a mistake is made, it can have some pretty severe effects on the machine that you're running it through. I've seen that firsthand. It's definitely not fun to try to fix. It's a several hour ordeal at least every time. So it's a lot of shadowing for that new person in the beginning, and then after that, it's a lot of supervising them while they do that, just kind of making sure that they've got the process down, they're confident and comfortable with it, and that they're on their way.
Mm-hmm. And to steamroll off that, like I remember training Maddie on several things, and it's like, I'll give her the setup and explain to her the expectations and how to apply the coding, and she was having trouble on a handful of things, and I would just be like, Maddie, sand it, redo it, and it's kind of like I'll give her advice too, and it's kind of like a fail forward system I like to use a lot. It's like someone that's passionate and really cares, like Maddie, and it's getting the reps in and kind of failing forward. So I'll always push someone like that, like Maddie, just to continue trying, try again. Okay, let's try to figure out what we did wrong or what happened here, and let's redo it. Like, I'm okay spending all day redoing something, as long as we're getting something out of it. And there's been many times Maddie and I have found ourselves in that situation.
Let's talk a bit about the culture at Granite State. Because Maddie, I'm assuming you've trained people who are older than you. I'm assuming you've trained men, and this feels like we've moved so far beyond this topic. It would have been more apropos 10 years ago, 5 years ago during the quiet quitting discussion. But when I think about culture, obviously there are still painters out there, older men who are probably still have a hang up about the younger generation or working with women. And I certainly feel like I like to think that we've gotten to the point where we don't have to talk about them because we're just leaving those dudes behind. Like, that's get with the program or get lost. But Cole, talk about what is the culture at Granite State? Do you have a particularly young crew or
Yes.
not? What's it like?
Yeah, I'd say about the average age is probably somewhere in the mid-20s. I'm on the older end of things. Everyone's probably in the mid-20s. We have had guys in their 40s and 50s before. But the culture is huge for us. That's something we put a ton of effort into. But monthly we do a company-wide breakfast. That's every third Thursday of the month. We do barbecues every Friday after work, and that's something we value a ton. If you have good culture and everyone's comfortable around one another, that just makes people more comfortable making mistakes, more comfortable asking questions, and just breeds like success. So culture is something we value tremendously, and that going back to even the hiring process, when I'm not, like I said, I'm not necessarily asking anyone painting related questions. I'm trying to just get them to talk as much as possible about themselves and trying to get a gauge of how well they're going to fit in with our culture, because I ultimately believe culture is number one, and someone that fits in our culture is going to far more succeed than someone that doesn't fit in our culture, but say has a little bit more painting experience coming from somewhere else.
And Maddie, how has that culture, if at all, affected your ability to learn and work and progress at Granite State? What impact has it had on you?
I honestly think that it's been the biggest thing in my progression here, just because I would say this is probably out of all companies, all industries that I've worked in before, um, the only one that has actually cared this much at this level about like me as a person, along with like everybody else that I work with too. It's like I know a lot of places say like, oh, like we're like family here, but I'd say that really is like as close to being true as it can be here.
And to go off that too, when it like comes to training, and the person you're training can tell Maddie and I really care about them. Like that goes such a long ways. It's like when they know we care, they almost feel like they like owe you something. They're like, Maddie and Cole are going out of their way or spending time outside of work, or coming in early to get stuff set up for me to become better. Like I got to rise to this occasion, you know. So in truly caring about the person, there's so much to be said for that, as Maddie mentioned.
Maddie, I know that sometimes when we're in the field, we're working with other crews from other companies, and maybe not all of them are as kind of family oriented and welcoming as Granite State. What's been your experience on job sites where you may run into workers that are more traditional, I guess?
I'd say for the most part, my experience has been pretty positive. I haven't really had many issues in that area, but there has been like the occasional instance, like how you brought up earlier, like sometimes you're training, I'll end up training somebody who's a guy, and then you show up to a job site with them, and then the other crews that are there, maybe they're doing wall painting on the outside of the house, or they're doing construction or anything like that. They'll come up and they'll, you know, kind of give you a little bit of slack or whatever, and then they obviously every time they're just automatically going to assume that the guy is the one that's in charge. I've had that experience many times. But overall, it's pretty positive. And if they are like that in the end, when they see the final product, the mindset completely changes. They're very impressed.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Funny example of that, Maddie, is like that time when we got hired just to paint this old bath tub. It was like a 100-year-old tub itself. And they had another painting company in this house painting the whole house, and we just got contracted to use like a specialty coating on the tub. And Maddie was the one that went in there doing it, and I'm like, oh man, I'm leaving Maddie here with a bunch of like 45-year-old guys that I'm not familiar with, from some other painting company. And I think they probably threw a couple jabs at her here and there, but I know when she got done, they were like, damn, what kind of paint was that? You got it done that quick? Like what? And they were asking her questions. And I think they left after Maddie left. I think those guys were like, wow, that we got to learn some things here, like after seeing Maddie's work.
And then they were asking Cole if Granite State has any openings. You looking for people? So
Yeah.
I love all of that. Again, we've been talking about culture in the industry for years, but I guess there's still some people out there who think the job is its own reward, and you get in line, do the job. If you're still not sold on the importance and value of culture, about setting yourself apart, that painting isn't just painting, we're Granite State and this is how we do it, right? I mean, that's if you still aren't aware of the opportunity to set your company apart through your culture, then you're really far behind the times. Cole, let's talk a bit more about hiring. If you were to meet a contractor who was like, God, I am dying with hiring. Our retention rate is probably lower than it's ever been. We have such a hard time identifying quality people, whatever process we have isn't working. What would your advice be to them? Where can somebody start to try to reformat their hiring process?
So as far as the hiring process goes, there's a lot of different directions you could take. I mean, so our office manager does all the screening, the pre-screening of all the people. We might get 40 Indeed people that apply for the job. And our office manager, Casey, will kind of weed them out based on, some parameters Matt or I will set beforehand. And so that's like almost a job in itself, is spending the time and putting the money into Indeed and weeding them out. It's like you got to put the time in there. And then on top of that, what goes a long ways with us is, like, I think the benefits we offer as a company. We have paid holidays, all the major paid holidays, paid time off, health insurance, 401k, dental insurance. I might be forgetting something here, but we have all that stuff. And I think when you're someone coming to look into the trades, and it's like, you're like, oh, wow, I'm not just necessarily working for a painting company. Like, might be starting my painting career. And I think that really speaks to a person that's potentially going to work for us, is that this isn't just maybe just like a temporary job. It's that this could be your career if you want it to be.
And you mentioned Matt. I guess we should probably give Matt some at least mention, since he is the owner of the company. Cole, what can you tell us about Matt?
Matt's great. Honestly, he, out of anyone, I look up to Matt for just in life. He does everything really, honestly, like, as good as it can be. He's an amazing mentor to me. I tell him this all the time. Almost like a father brother style person to me. And I tell him this all the time. And yeah, he's just an amazing person. Never gets upset somehow. Like, I don't know how. Never gets upset. Is always finds the good in situations, and somehow just like always knows how to make the right decisions during the hardest times. And I envy him for that, and I admire him for that as well.
Maddie, how about you? What's your experience been with Matt Johnson, owner of Granite State Painting?
I think Cole put it pretty well. I don't really know if I can say much more after that, but I will say that he's a really good guy. He's the guy that's gonna help you when you're in a tough situation, whether it be at work or outside of work. And I've got a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, that for sure. And like, when when it comes to like Matt and I, like, we're willing to put the employees before us at any given time. If it comes to whatever it is, doing a crappy aspect of a job or whatever, when everyone knows that Matt is going to put himself last, that goes like a really long ways. And there's a lot of like respect there. He's like greatly respected. And like Maddie said too, like the amount of help he gives people outside of work, like we have a lot of people, like 20 plus people in total, and people have problems outside of work. That might be, living situations, some health complications, and the amount of like money and help Matt's put into those people is just like remarkable and to be respected.
Wow. Maddie, we've talked about it. You're probably a bit unusual in this business because I think it's less than 10% are women. And that's something we want to change. And, PCA has their Women Paint. There's a lot of great programs out there to encourage women to look at the trades as a potential career. Maddie, obviously that message got through to you somewhere along the way. What would you say to other young women, and what does the trade need to do better to recruit people like you?
The advice I would give is really just to just go for it. You know, you're never gonna know what your experience is gonna be until you just try it. I'd say it's worth a try. I really enjoy painting, and my experience has been, like I said before, I haven't really experienced much, criticism or backlash on the basis of that overall. Like the couple of things here and there can be a little bit off-putting, a little bit irritating, but I feel like our company specifically does a really good job of kind of building up that confidence. So I have them to thank for a lot of that. But yeah, I would say just have that full confidence, go for it. You might not think that you have the skill or, the knowledge, but it's really easy to learn. It's really easy to kind of pick up, and it's a lot of fun.
Do you think you might start your own paint business someday?
Who knows? I'm pretty happy here right now, but who knows what the future holds.
And I'd like to say, like, for females considering going into the trades, especially painting, it's like there might be the stigma of that old school mentality where, guys only, they're hard asses or hard O's, and, you do something wrong, they're going to chuck a paintbrush at you or something like that. And that definitely doesn't happen here. And I know a lot of other painting contractors in the area and really across America, and that really just doesn't happen in general anymore. And if you're willing to grind and work like a guy, girl, whatever you are, you're going to succeed just like anywhere else. And that kind of like stigma that we have from like the early 2000s or late 90s, that's no more here. That's not around anymore. Definitely not around here.
Love that sentiment. And I think it does exist. Some, obviously, it's waning every day, every year. And I think the lesson is certainly to contractors, you better treat your people well or they'll find someone who does. And then the lesson to painters is there's a lot of great jobs out there. There's a lot of great contractors out there. So whether you're already in the industry or you're thinking about it, the stereotypes aren't true anymore. And if you just have bad luck to fall into a place where that stereotype is still there, man, move on, because there's so much greener pastures out there. And you guys, the warm fuzzy level of this podcast is off the charts. I'm loving this podcast because you guys are like poster children for the industry. Children not being a function of your age, but that's just the phrase, poster children. So no offense intended. That I love your attitude. It's just so positive. Can do. Let's go. If somebody else has a problem, that's not my problem. We're, what's next? We're moving forward. So Maddie Clark and Cole Martin, gosh, Granite State Painters in beautiful New Hampshire. Thanks for being on the podcast. Thanks for sharing the love.
Of course. Like, yeah, we appreciate you having us on. This is really cool to talk to you about this. And yeah, like I encourage all young people, both male and female, to get into the trades. I think there's going to be an amazing opportunity, in a handful of years, definitely right now, but I think less and less are going into the trades by the day. And in about a decade here, there's going to be a huge need for people. So get in now. And I think you can set yourself up really well for years to come.
Yeah, I second that.
That's awesome. Kevin, I think this is, further evidence. It's amazing. We talk about through lines. This is what we do at APC, right? We shine a very comprehensive light on the entirety of the painting industry because there's hard skills, but man, there's soft skills. Hard skills to being a painting contractor, to understanding the accounting, to hiring a CFO, to having those monthly meetings with your CFO, to know your numbers, to understand scheduling, stuff that Cole's involved in. But man, the soft skills, being a people person, being a good person, relating to people, to understanding their needs, their role. How can I help my people love their jobs, or at least enjoy their jobs? And Kevin, you're a professional communicator, professional editor-in-chief. I can see why the AP hired you as a young freshen out of college. You do a great job finding these stories, man. Good job, Kevin.
I like talking to people, and if anyone's listening to this, hit me up. You may be my next story.
There you go. If you're like, wow, I see a lot of myself in Maddie and Cole, I should be on Paint Radio. Yeah, you should. You should be on Paint Radio. Hit Kevin up. Go to paintmag.com. I don't know. Maybe you stumbled across this podcast. Congratulations. This is the best day of your life, because you just unlocked a ton of free content about how to run a better painting business, because that is the first step in being just happier. Let's be happier, everybody. Go to paintmag.com. Free subscription, tons of great content. So many kindred spirits out there. People you're going to be like, hell yeah, I want to follow in their steps. This is why I'm in this industry. Let's go. Paintmag.com. Thanks for coming to the podcast. We'll see you next time.